Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. How you doing today, babe?
I'm doing all right. You still have that morning voice.
I know, right? I know. I gotta. I
You
gotta work it
sound.
out. Me, 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 me. Well, in case you don't know, Pillow Talk is a show where my therapist wife and I get together and have conversations against our pillow that we think are intelligent and fun. And if you ever want to know what two black professors might talk about while they're laying in bed together, this would be your chance to do that. Now, everybody, as you come in, please hit the thumbs up button. Also, shout out the city that you're from. Let us know what city you're from. And we haven't done a pillow talk in a while, but we had to do one about this story. Now, I don't know if anybody saw this story or not, but give me a yes in the chat if you saw this story. There was a father who, in a way, at first I guess the family, he was hailed as a hero because his Tesla drove off a cliff, and shockingly, Jamad Brown, they survived. The whole family survived.
They were all conscious.
They were all
If you can believe that.
they survived and were conscious, which is crazy.
Crazy. They were trapped in the car, of course, but someone saw them drive off the cliff and called authorities immediately, which saved them.
Yeah,
It's a miracle.
and they were saying that they said there's no way. The lady who saw it said, I knew there was no way anybody could survive that fall, and they survived the fall. And then the big shocker today was that it was intentional. That he, at least according to the police reports and the media reports, the father was arrested.
They arrested him this morning.
Yeah,
Unbelievable. So from Monday morning to today, this morning, it's Wednesday morning, woo, they did some investigating. They talked to people and they asked people questions and they were like, huh? They arrested that guy.
yeah.
That's something.
So this dad is now under arrest apparently for deliberately driving his family off a cliff. And I don't know if anybody else saw this story, but it was just kind of crazy. And
Oh, we see his face, but not his family. Like people who know him is gonna know the whole family,
well,
which is interesting. But
I'm gonna tell you as a dad, I'm very offended by what I'm seeing here. But you happen to be have some expertise in the area of suicide, because I remember
mhm.
we went to Guyana, and you did the Fulbright. And by the way, everybody clap for this black woman. She was the first faculty member in the history of her institution to win a Fulbright. Nobody's ever done it before. So,
And since no one's done it since, but I hope I've been mentoring some people who want to do Fulbrights at my institution. So hopefully there'll be another one. There'll be number two.
well, shout out to all the black women doing it big, and all the black men too.
Yeah, I like to see everybody win.
Yeah. So I hope y'all will are okay with me publicly stating how proud I am of my wife, because I think we need to learn how to do that more, as men. So I'm super proud of what you did. But anyway, but going back to the topic, when I see something like that, right? When I see a
Hmm.
father kill himself and kill his whole family, I just can't help but to be disgusted by that.
You're
And
disgusted by it.
I'm disgusted as a
Yeah.
dad. I just don't understand it. Even killing yourself while you have a family, to me, just comes off
He
as,
didn't want to bring himself down. He was taking the whole family with him.
yeah.
That was his thinking.
So you're not just suicidal, you're homicidal.
Homicidal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ain't that
So
something?
let's begin to try to decompose this. So by the way, everybody, if you could take 1 second, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, and subscribe. And also, in case you want to know where Alicia does therapy, that's her website. If you want to follow her on Instagram, stuff like that. So let's start with. There's so many angles I want to ask you about with this, because I know you worked with in the area of suicide. You've been a social worker for many years, so you talked about child protection issues as well. You did your time at what was it, Cook County Hospital in Chicago. And
There's okay, as a social worker, it is interesting. You said you did your time. You do feel like that. Like you've done your time. Like, all social workers should at least spend some time working in social services, which I did. Very
okay,
brief. Well, yeah, I did. I worked in social services for Illinois. which is really interesting history there.
Yeah.
And then I worked at Cook County Hospital. It's called John Strozier Hospital of Cook County. That's the official name now.
Yeah, and you've also, in addition to working in areas related to child welfare and suicide, and working in areas related to suicide, and working in areas related to trauma, which these kids are traumatized, and areas working related to couples therapy and family therapy. I mean, it's
But
like
I worked in trauma and ER unit.
yeah. So
at the county
the
hospital.
reason I bring this up is because you know, all those areas come to mind when I think about what happened here. Right, I'm thinking about trauma on these poor kids. I'm thinking about suicide. I'm thinking, for obvious reasons. I'm thinking about child welfare, like how do kids end up being stuck in households where parents do things like this. I was thinking about couples therapy. You know, like what's going on in the relationship that makes you feel like you can't just leave somebody. You got to kill everybody on the way out the door. So let's start with the just the obvious mental health aspects of this. How should I view this? You know, without seeing it through my lens. My lens is just as a, I believe, pretty sane father and husband, and I just don't understand it. I think it's despicable. There's no way I can empathize with what this man did on any level. Is there another way I should see this?
Okay, so well, let's go through the story. So first of all, he is driving on the highway, which by the way, I don't know if it's the highway I'm thinking about the highway that's like right off where you can drive off of a cliff. Remember that? You go around. I think me and you drove on that actual street. Is it Highway 1?
You talking about when we had that?
Not Highway 1. You had a drop top, remember?
Yeah, we got the drop top.
You had that drop.
Go because I got me a drop top.
That's
right. If they hit
right.
the switch, I can make the ass drop.
We was extra California.
We were
playing Snoop Dogg that day. Yes,
Probably.
we were. We were playing Snoop Dogg. But it is so, I just remember, like, if you're not paying attention, you could easily drive off of that cliff. Like, there's nothing really stopping you. It's kind of frightening. You do have to pay attention. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. The second thing was that he was almost like a hero because, like, wow, remember the whole chatter about the Tesla? They were like, this is a good kind of applaud to Tesla for having safe cars.
Well, first off,
so at the beginning, he was like, isn't he a wonderful father? Isn't that kind of what people were thinking?
I think people were thinking about the design quality of Tesla.
The design quality of Tesla and his foresight to buy a Tesla.
Oh, well, you know, I didn't see it quite like that. I just remember thinking, man, Teslas must be really tough cars because you drive a Ford off a cliff, you're going to die that day.
Exactly. And then you were saying, ooh, this has got to be political because if it was a Ford, no one would say a Ford drove off the car.
Right.
Like they wouldn't put, drove off the cliff. No one would say a Ford. So that was kind of like initially we were thinking, golly, isn't that family blessed? That's kind of what we were thinking about yesterday because you told us the story yesterday. And then this morning I saw, oh my goodness, this man deliberately did this. And it's funny because a car accident driving off of a cliff, you know, it's almost like a to die that way. It's like a tragic death. Like no one would ever think this is a suicide murder. No. Like who thought this man's plan was foiled? And, you know, I don't know, we all could be thinking divine intervention. And I remember thinking, if it's your time to go, it's your time to go. If it's not your time to go, there's nothing you can do to stop it. So it's helping me. Like I was given like this big perspective about life in and of itself. So that was my initial sort of reaction. Wow, life is so precious. Life is so delicate. But at the same time, you can go through things that you shouldn't even be alive right now. Like to fly off the cliff. And what the people were saying was that there was a lady who saw the car fly off this cliff and she immediately called paramedics. That's number one, the reason why they survived. Number two, the reason why they survived was because the tide was low.
They were lucky.
And normally the tide would be high. So if the tide was high, they would have drowned.
Yeah.
You know, so it all kind of came together where it was almost a perfect storm in a sense for this car and for those individuals to live through this. And this man is going to go down for this. And I'm thinking in the past 2 days, a lot of information came out to the police to indicate that this really was a murder-suicide. So that's pretty tragic in and of itself. And I can't imagine what the mom was saying. Like
I wonder, you know what I think about? I think about when they drove off this cliff and they know that their dad
The
just
horror.
deliberately tried to kill everybody, and the wife was mortified because of what he did. And they drive off this cliff, and you think you're all gonna die. You just assume we're gonna die, and you're trying to survive, but it's probably for not,
You're
right?
like, this is it. This is the end of this is it. Like, as the
Right.
car's going off the cliff. And I'm thinking moments leading up to that probably was equally frightening.
Yeah.
I'm certain days leading up to this, years leading up to this, there probably was some frightening moments in this household. And by the way, to be able to purchase a Tesla, this was probably a pretty high income family. You're living in California. Let's assume they live in Pasadena, California. It is, and you have a wife and a family, 2 children. That's I think they were pretty affluent, I think we can say.
Perhaps,
Yeah.
but then I'm thinking about this, right? Like, so you're in this car, and everybody's screaming, and they're like, "Dad, what are you doing?" And the wife is like, "No, please, honey, please, please, please."
Oh my goodness.
So they drive off this cliff, and
Ugh.
he does it, right? He just drives off the cliff. So everybody, the kids are screaming. The wife is thinking she's gonna die. The husband, I guess, has just decided this is what's gonna happen. So you hit the rocks, and the
Oh,
car flips and flips and
oh
flips and
my
flips and
goodness.
flips, and then you crash. You hit the ground, right? And unbelievably, everybody's alive and conscious, which is crazy. Of course, they're screaming and crying and everything else. Um, I'm real. Here's what I'm thinking about, right? So people call 911 to say, "Oh my God, I just saw somebody go off this cliff." The police don't arrive like 3 seconds later. The police probably arrived.
They arrived pretty quickly, but
They probably did, but probably not.
it was some time
was
there
probably
where
good.
they
I
were
bet.
all
I
like,
right,
everybody's okay.
right. I bet there was like a good 30, 45 minutes before the police could get there, because they got to bring the choppers and all this equipment. So I'm wondering what it was like in that car between the time they hit the ground, realized they were alive,
Alive.
and the time the police got there. Like I'm wondering, like, was there just like, oh my God, or how could you do this, or honey, are you okay? Like, I just wonder, like, what that conversation was like. Was he like, I just had to do it? I had to, like, I would love to know what that
Oh,
conversation was like during that time where they're just laying there upside down, waiting for a
and
rescue team to come get them.
that car was mangled too. And they couldn't get out of the car. Remember, they were trapped in the car, of course, because the car is like mangled.
Right.
And everybody is alive. We don't
Yeah.
even know what that conversation was like. I think I could probably, I'm sure it's well, from the mother, is everybody okay? She's probably more concerned about her children.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Oh my
God.
goodness. Can you imagine? They were probably crying. I'm thinking the mom was focusing on the kids, trying to get them to relax. And then can you imagine how you feel when you hear the choppers coming to rescue you? It's like, oh crap, we're actually going to make it. Because sometimes when you're at the bottom of that cliff, you're thinking, we're going to die here if someone doesn't come rescue us.
Well, would you
Or if
just
the water comes in.
Yeah, the tide wasn't high. If the tide had been high, they would have drowned, like you said.
If he had been driving that car off the cliff at 5 p.m. instead of 9 in the morning, it would have been a whole different story. We never would have known. All we could do at that point was speculate what happened.
I'll tell you what, it's tragic as hell, and here's the crazy part. And actually, I'll share this with you guys in a minute. Before I do that, if you could please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You listen to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins, and we get together every couple of days and do pillow talks. And that's us on the
You
on
like
the beach.
that picture, don't you?
I like it. I like.
We're
Well,
on vacation.
I like any picture that you're in.
That was like 6 months ago.
I know. Any picture that you're in, I just like it. And so anyway, if you also want to know more about what Dr. Alicia does, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. And also, I have a book called Financial Lovemaking. You can actually have a free e-copy if you go to boyceandalicia.com. There's the URL on the screen. Okay, so let's get back to this. So we were talking about this family. Did the names get released?
Their names were not released.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a family that made headlines at first because their Tesla drove off a cliff. and it was a miracle that they survived. Everybody was sort of screaming about the engineering feat of Elon Musk of creating a car that could survive a 250-foot fall off a cliff. I'm sure they were gonna they probably got contacted by Tesla. Maybe somebody's gonna give them
I'm
an
sure they
award.
did.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
Oh, I wonder if Tesla could contact, because Tesla cars are really smart. We've been in a couple of Teslas.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they know we were in a crash and could send for authorities. I
That's
don't know how smart. It's like a big iPad right in the front.
That's true. Well, it seems like safety would be, somewhere on their priority list. I hope it would be. Yeah.
Because you know what I really thought at first when you told me the story? I thought it was like a Tesla. And this tells you where my mind goes. I thought it was like self-driving Tesla, and like the Tesla just drove itself off the cliff.
The car became suicidal.
And that tells you like how far-fetched in our imagination it would be for someone to do something like this. Like, think about a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old little girl, a 9-year-old little boy, a wife, a mother, and for a husband to do that. It's so far from my mind. I actually thought Tesla, it was almost like a weird Black Mirror episode where the car is just driving itself off the cliff.
Yeah.
That was more of a possibility than it would be someone wanting to just take everybody out in the household, which, by the way, we learned that it's not really a novel thing, because it's happened many times over the years. You were looking at that.
What?
How many times someone has like, screw this. I'm going to drive everybody off the cliff.
Yeah. You know what? That's really interesting.
How often it is.
And I don't know how much, I don't know how much energy we can or should put into these extreme cases, but my Lord, I went and did a search on man drives car off cliff, right? Thinking that this would be the story that came up. Do y'all know that several stories came up of people just killing themselves and killing their whole family? Like, there was one story about a dad who killed his twin daughters.
Look at that.
Yeah, these two beautiful little girls that their dad drove. He's a cop. And it's a San Diego cop rescues twin girls. After dad drives off the cliff. So the dad wasn't a cop. I'm sorry. It was the cops that rescued.
Oh goodness. Okay.
The girls.
The cop is the hero in this story.
Yeah. Right. So that was one story that I saw. Then there was this other one that made me really sad, because these are little Black kids. So these ladies had adopted all these little Black children, and then one of them, I guess they're a wife and wife, or I don't know. I guess
it's a wife and wife. It's a wife situation.
And wife. Okay, so there's no husband. Okay, I didn't know if there was.
They adopted
I didn't know that the gender had been taken out of the word husband. But anyway, so spouse and spouse. Let's just say that
they're a spouse. Yeah. They're
married. So they adopted all these Black kids, and this dang lady drove all these kids off a cliff. And the crazy part was that, and this is why I want to ask you about this, because you worked in child protective services spaces, or you child welfare.
I have worked in child protective services.
How in the hell is it that all these, social workers kept coming to the house, and they were getting these reports that these kids were being abused, and they were never taken out of the house until they were all dead?
Yeah, the false positives. That haunts us as social workers, because we have to make a call. And it's not just one person that makes this decision. It's a whole team of people. They gather information. They interview everybody. They are monitored. But there really is no way of knowing if there's abuse going on in the household when we make the visits. And social workers make unannounced visits. There are things that they do. People in social services, not always a social worker, but you make unannounced visits. You visit announced. You talk to the children alone. And if they don't tell you, if they say everything is okay, you're looking around the house to make sure there's food for everybody. Everybody has clothing. They have the basic necessities that a child needs. They're going to school. The grades are going well. Like, you gather all this information, and you have to make an assessment as a team. And, this possible scenario is haunting to us, because usually when things like this happen, when abuse is actually happening, and you leave the children in the home, they always blame the social worker for not doing their job. And it's really always this X factor where you just don't know. There's always like a question mark.
So you're saying that we can't just put it all on the social worker?
Well, there has to be evidence. I mean, and it's funny because there'll be hundreds and thousands of times where we've been like, oh no, this is clear abuse, and you actually do the right thing. But it's just cases like this that are really extreme where the right thing wasn't done. And I think they did a movie on this because somehow I remember seeing either if it was a biopic on this family or it was a documentary. It may have been a documentary, because if it was a documentary, then I definitely saw it. Where they interviewed some of their neighbors who suspected. So as soon as it would be suspected that something was going on in that household, the entire family would up and leave. So I think they were manipulating the system. And again, if they suspect manipulation of the system, you have to collect evidence. And sometimes that takes time. And sometimes, when they feel like they're getting caught, they do something like this, like drive them off of a cliff. Unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah, that story made me sad. And so, yep. So I guess with this, so one other question I want to ask you, and by the way, if everybody could please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. You're listening to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. And we're talking about this father who drove his Tesla off a cliff and tried to kill his whole family. Unfortunately, God spoiled his plot. He's going to now have to face trial.
You get away with nothing, right?
Yeah, you sure do. And or you sure do not. And so if you could hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe if you haven't done it yet. So I want to ask you this question, as a therapist, and all these, you've seen a lot of clients, a lot of families, things like that. What do you do with let's say you have a couple that comes in, and so you're the therapist for this couple, and the wife says, I think he might be, I think he might, he's acting crazy. He's the kind of person that could kill us all and kill himself.
Oh, call 911.
He's threatened to do that.
I call the authorities.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. You have, if you sense that there's somebody's in danger, confidentiality goes out of the door.
So even if she just feels it, let's say he's never done anything
if she
yet.
feels it, I would do a safety plan with her.
Okay.
I would immediately.
What would a safety plan look like?
I would talk to her about it. I would ask her the lay of the land, like, tell me where you live. What does your house look like? And yeah, I would ask where the house looks like how the rooms and how the kitchen, how the bathroom, how everything is kind of laid out, just so that I could say, listen, I would have her somehow monitor him. I would also have her pack a bag and try to connect with a support system in her community or in her neighborhood, or a family member, or she needs to tell somebody. Here's what's going on. I would have like a bag packed and placed somewhere close to the door, because if she ever feels like she needs to like escape, because sometimes men will do that. How many murder suicides do we read about? Quite a bit, right? And it usually happens when the marriage or the relationship is dissolving. It's usually like a very critical point. So, and I think I was talking about this before, like sometimes it's not safe to leave immediately, because that point where you just leave immediately, like you're just up and gone and you leave, can be very dangerous. So sometimes, really? Yeah, situations like that, you gotta have to kind of think it through and plan for it and talk about it. And you have to leave in a way, of course, that's always respectful, no matter what's going on, because you don't want to make things worse when it doesn't have to be, especially if there's children involved. So there's a safety plan. There is, whenever you feel unsafe, here's what you need to do. Is there any way to get the children out of the home? Go to grandma's house for a while. If you feel like you're going to leave, like this is exit plan. If you feel like you're going to leave the relationship, see if you can get the children to a neutral party, because you don't want the children to be involved in that. Getting a support system. Even if you feel like it's really dangerous, notifying the police and let them know. Say, I think I might need to give a restraining order. What is that process like? I feel like I might be in danger. And if something happens, so, you could alert the authorities. I think the police are very well trained. Most police are very well trained in responding to situations like this. And let's see what else. If you feel like things are getting tense in the household, stay out of the bathroom. For some reason, the bathroom is a place where you can be trapped in there. I've had, when I worked in the county hospital and just in my own 20 years of practice, I've heard so many people get trapped in that bathroom. There's usually one
Mm.
exit. Bathrooms don't usually, unless it's a.
But the bathroom just seems like such a natural place to run and hide.
Yeah, but
If
it
the
really,
killers
well,
come to
you
get
don't want you want to run out the door is what you want to do, is run out the front door.
Okay.
Extra set of keys in your escape bag, passports, copies of your passports, money, credit cards, changes of clothes, all of those things you want to put in a bag and have it either somewhere where the offender can't see it. So it could be at a neighbor's house down the street where that's their plan. If I feel unsafe, I feel like something's going to go down, I'm just going to jet for the front door and go down to Susan's house down the street. She knows what's going on, and she knows when she sees me what the situation is, she'll call the police immediately. I say stay out of kitchens too, because kitchens is where there's sharp objects in the kitchen. So try to stay out of kitchens if you feel like it's very intense. So there's safety planning that has to happen. And usually I just go and I just out and out ask people, hey, are you going to hurt yourself? Are you going to hurt yourself and other people? Because I need an answer to this, because what you're telling me makes me feel like that somebody might be in danger. Please let me know. Like, I take that kind of thing seriously in my office. You're going to hurt yourself. And I just look and see their answer. What's going on? Do you think that you might do that? No. Okay.
Your eyes got real big.
It did get big because that's probably how I look when I actually say it.
I would feel like I have to answer that question.
Yeah, and I would say it quickly. Are you going to hurt yourself? I need to know right now. You have to tell me right now. This meeting is not over until I can ensure that everybody is safe. Tell me right now. And okay, no, you don't feel like you can. Okay. So how about if you ever feel like you're going to hurt someone, the very first thing you do is call me. Okay. Don't do anything first. Just don't do anything. Call me. Call me first before you make any decision, or call the police before you do anything.
And I think that's such a good strategy. I mean, well, first off, it's not
my strategy. It's what we're trained to do this way.
But I do like the strategy. It's good common sense. First off, I would just say to any guys that are listening, like, if you get to the point where you got to hurt somebody, just get out of that situation. Do not put your hands on a woman, no matter what. But that's what I was raised on. Just, you don't hit a woman, period. So I don't understand those guys who do that kind of thing. And I would encourage anybody to really sort of take your time to get to know people, to see what their capacity for violence is, because it's crazy. And it's amazing how many women get death threats from their husbands, even when their husbands are like police officers and stuff like that.
Especially when their husbands are police officers. Good grief. Yeah. I mean, it's that passive aggressiveness that tend to happen with police officers. I'm not trying to say all of them, but it's like they'll grab you on the arm and they'll be like giving you harm, and then they'll smile in your face. It's that dissonance between they're being kind and they're smiling in your face, and then they're grabbing your arm, doing something really aggressive. It's really interesting.
Well, I think that, being the son of a cop, cops are built around, like, a lot of them are trained around obtaining control of a situation, and they're not afraid of violence. At least experienced cops are not. So, I think that if you're talking about cops or military guys, you have a different, a perception of that violence barrier than with the regular people. Like it was interesting growing up in a house with a man who has actually killed people. Like, my father has actually, he on the job, he had to shoot a guy and kill him. And also in Vietnam, I'm sure he killed some people. And so it does require some discipline on this part, because if he had just lost it and decided, I'm gonna kill everybody in his house, we would have believed him, and then it could have happened. But fortunately, that wasn't how he was built. He never did anything like that.
Well, that's the reason why some of these marriages stay together, or not stay together, or can become difficult to dissolve. It's because there's this threat. The wives are frightened. It's like, if you leave me, I'll kill you. Like, those kind of statements should be taken very seriously. And I don't think that that's what you should ever say to somebody. That's not a very good thing to say. If you leave or something else happens, I'm going to kill you and kill everybody else. And so that's the reason why some of these families are just frightened and have to really do a really good exit plan on getting out, and it has to be foolproof. I've actually planned exits for people, in a way that's respectful and the way that's safe.
Mm.
So this threat, and then it's almost like to drive off of a cliff is kind of it's think about to drive off of a cliff versus shooting yourself or something like that. It's almost like it's more acceptable in the mind of somebody who wants to end their life to do it in this way, because there's so much stigma attached to suicide. It's a stigmatized way to die. And so if it's like a single car crash, it's like, oh God, it was a car accident. It wasn't something that was, it was an accident. So it almost like you still, even in your passing, it's more acceptable. And it's also more acceptable for the family that you leave behind. It's like, oh, he died in a car accident.
Yeah.
That just seems better
than,
than,
the people
he
who know
killed
the real
himself.
story don't live to tell it.
Right. They wouldn't have lived to tell it in this case.
Because most of us can't afford Teslas. Most people can't afford to buy a Tesla.
Yeah, so I'm glad you bring this up, because I'm thinking about the type of pressure that high income families face. If there's like serious issues going on, which clearly there was, I think it's just very fascinating how you have this veneer. Because that picture that you put up of that family, like you would never think anything like that is going on. It's like a veneer of a nice, look at that nice. That's a nice, wholesome white family right there.
Well, he don't look white.
Is he white?
I don't know what he is.
I can't see, but it's a nice, wholesome family, with this high income. You think that because you have a whole lot of money that solves your problem. And that's the thing. It's like, how are we measuring success in our society? Are we measuring success because we're driving a Tesla? Are we measuring success based on who we are and how we interact with people? I mean, it's interesting. I like the fact that you brag about me and you talk about like how awesome I am, because I did win a Fulbright scholarship, and there wasn't anyone else in my institution that did that, and I think that that's pretty cool. But like, having accolades and having money and having success in that way, to me is great and everything. But I consider myself successful, just based on how I interact with people, just based on how I live my life, just things that I do, things that I say. Like, I measure success on other things, that's just my own.
Well, you're cute. I'm gonna buy you a Tesla.
No, I don't want no Tesla.
Hey, baby, let's go for a drive in my Tesla.
That's fine. Oh, so what I was trying to get to, I think I'm like making a long point. But anyway, like what I was trying to get to is that sometimes like those families that have that really crystal clear veneer of, from the outside looking in, you think, oh, everything is so wonderful. Sometimes it's almost like this big shame and disappointment to actually come to the conclusion to end the relationship. Like, oh my God, I gotta let my mom down, I gotta let my dad down, I gotta let all these people down. It is overwhelming. Just to think about dissolving a relationship is extremely overwhelming to a lot of people. And these are not healthy reasons to stay together, by the way. It's not healthy to stay together. I'm just going to stay together for the children. That's not a healthy reason to stay together. I'm just going to stay together because I don't want to disappoint my parents. That's not healthy. I want to stay together because it's just too overwhelming trying to separate our belongings and finances. Let's stay together because I don't know. Let's stay together because just the thought of moving just makes me exhausted. So I might as well stay with you. These are not healthy reasons to stay in a situation that is not good for you. Healthy reasons is because I really love this person. I really think we can build together. I really think we could, we can make a positive impact. We can, wonderful things like that. That's great reasons for staying together.
Yeah, I don't feel like love is always enough.
Love is never enough.
I think I because I feel like it's like whether you stay together or don't stay together, it's gonna be a lot of work, and I think that people tend to take the devil they know versus the devil they don't know, right? So you're looking at the person next to you and they're getting on your nerves, and and it's there's a lot of work to do, but you know that person, you know what you're dealing with, you know what the trigger points are, you know what the problem spots are. Whereas if you go out and you create this whole new life, you don't know what the new problems are going to be.
Oh, yes. By
You
the
know.
way, another unhealthy reason to stay together
Mhm.
is because I don't think I'll find anybody else. That is
Yeah,
very unhealthy.
yeah. I think it is, but it's like quitting a job, right? Like if I quit my job, like I might be mad about my job, but if I forget about the things that you know that are good about my job, then I could take that for granted and throw it all away. And the next thing you know, I'm out here in the job market wishing I had my old job back. So I think that there should be a healthy amount of aversion to regret that you consider when you let go of something. Because I think most people in the chat could identify with the time where you did say, you know what, I'm not gonna let fear keep me in this relationship. I'm gonna go find somebody better and blah blah blah.
I don't
And
think
then, and then
people
well, wait a
people
minute, hold on, wait,
okay.
let me finish. And then a few months later, you're begging for that person to come back because you realize that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. Like I learned that early. Like the grass isn't always green on the other side. It doesn't mean it isn't. It can't be.
You're
It.
making the assumption that people leave a relationship just to find something better for themselves.
Why wouldn't
They
they? Why not?
That is not the reason why. That's the unhealthy reason to leave a relationship. A healthy reason to stay in a relationship, it's saying I am with the person that I really want to be with, and there's I'm looking at all these other possibilities, and I don't want to be any other place. I don't want to be single. I really
Mm.
want to be with this person, and it's not just love, of course, but it's that is a healthy
I feel like that's a high standard.
it's looking at your partner, and it's saying there's it's not saying I could find somebody else, but it's saying that even if I find somebody else, which you always will, but even if you find somebody else, I don't want to be with anybody else. I just want to be with the person that I'm with,
Okay,
given the pros and cons. So
I I can get that point. I just think overall, like I don't want to every day wake up and be like, I want to think about every single woman on earth I could be with, and if my wife doesn't beat them all, then I'm good. Then I should be out of this relationship because I can be in a better situation with some.
no,
Like my
that's
point,
not what I was saying that the person that I'm with is my person.
right?
You know what I mean? This is my person. And there's a lot included in being my person. Not that this person is perfect, not that this person is the best person ever, a 10 out of 10, 100% of the time, but just saying, you know what, out of all the people, I think I made the right choice. I'm not looking at other relationships, wishing that I was in those relationships. I'm in the relationship I want to be in. And you can do this for yourself. You can build this for yourself. You
Yeah,
can you can do it. It
yeah.
is possible.
Yeah, I'll tell you how my mind works. Once I make a commitment, I don't make commitments very easily.
Right.
I've been called a commitment phobe because if you ask me, hey boys, can you meet for lunch on Tuesday? I'm gonna think about it. I'll be like, do I really want to commit to lunch? Do I really want to commit to a 20-minute phone call? Right? I literally think that way, right? So here's the thing. Once I make the commitment, I'm done. Like that's it. And the reason is because I've already thought it through.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what I mean. So I think,
That's a healthy reason to be in a relationship. It's the
yeah,
commitment factor. It's in the commitment is not just I committed myself to be married and I'm just going to be married. The commitment comes in your actions in the marriage. So there are a lot of people who are married to each other legally, but they're not necessarily committed to the relationship because every day they're not acting in the way that is actually committable. They're not putting each other first. They're inconsiderate of each other. They don't care about each other's feelings. They don't care about um any of the commitment level things
I,
that
I can
you agree
I
to.
can get that. I mean,
you know
I think of it like a job, right? There are days where I'm more committed to my job than other days, right? If I have a job and I've been on the job 30 years, some days I'm gonna be ultra committed to working my ass off. Some days I'm gonna be kind of coasting and chilling, you know.
well I
And I think that that's
yeah,
like with quiet quitting, how you have people that quit their jobs
yeah.
but don't really quit, and I imagine there's a quiet quitting in
Oh,
relationships
for
too.
sure.
And I think that this is where culture comes into play too, though. Like I think there are some people who say, well, if you feel the need to quiet quit in your relationship, then you need to just go ahead and get out of that relationship. That's like somebody saying, if you quiet quit on your job, you need to quit that job because at that point you're stealing money from the company. They can have somebody else in that position other than you. you're not really doing your best. But then there's some people who say if you signed a 10-year, guaranteed contract and you quiet quit,
You can get out of
they
contract.
still owe you that money, right? And that to me is the philosophical debate about what commitment means.
Okay.
Like where like in your world, you see commitment as a dynamic thing. Like my commitment evolves each day based on my actions and daily activities.
Is that what I say?
Well, you were saying that, but you were saying that
Oh.
your actions show your commitment. Well, no, wait, let me finish this point. I always saw commitment as doing what you say you're gonna do. I say that I'm gonna do this. Like when I started my PhD program, I thought it was gonna take 4 years. It took 8. I was committed to finishing, so I stayed until I was done. That was it. But to your point, there were actions I had to do to get there. But some days I wasn't, you know, a perfect student. But I was committed. I stayed with it, and until I hit the finish line. So in my mind, I was committed. Where somebody else might say, well, if you didn't hustle and graduate in 4 years, that means you weren't really committed. So I think that there's a difference in terms of how people view, because I believe if people were really committed to their marriages, we wouldn't have such a high divorce rate. I think that high divorce rate is due to a lack of commitment. But I think that there are different ways to interpret that.
Good point. So I was saying that it's not a 9 to 5 job, so to speak. It's more of a position. Like when I see my role as a professor as a position. So like right now, I got to go downstairs and I need to work on my syllabi, right? So I need to pull my syllabi together and work on it. But the past week or so, I haven't really done anything. I'm in between contracts. Our semester hadn't started. So you think of it as a position. It's not like a job that you're working at McDonald's somewhere. Marriage is like a position in terms of its level of commitment. So I'm responsible for making sure that my courses are together, making sure my classes are taught, making sure I attend to it and I grade my papers. That's my level of commitment to my institution. Okay. So I'm still committed. I don't have to be at the university 24/7 to be committed. Like for us to be in a committed marriage, we don't have to be around each other 24/7. What do you need, boys? What do you want, boys? I don't have to always be in your face, but we're still in a committed relationship. Why? Because everything that I'm doing, even when you're not around, and even if we're apart, physically apart, everything I'm doing is for the benefit of our marriage. I'm not doing anything to tear the marriage down when you're not around. That's part of trust and commitment. So they go hand in hand, the commitment and to trust. I know that even when we are apart, I know because I trust you, I trust that your behavior when we're not around is beneficial for our marriage. You're not going out selling crack, smoking crack, going around with a bunch of hoes and everything. I have to trust and know that you are committed to this relationship. So that's what I mean when I talk about, commitment and trust. They're like brothers and sisters. They're twin sisters, the twin pillars, trust and commitment.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do agree. I hear what you're saying. I think that was one of the areas where we had to have a lot of conversations because we had different definitions of commitment. I have a Southern Baptist family where commitment means doing
Your family is Southern Baptist?
Yeah, my father is. They're from the South.
How did I not know that?
I don't know. My father's a Southern Baptist minister, and my mother.
I've never seen him minister in a church, though.
Yeah, I've seen.
I've never even seen him go to church.
Yeah, he does. They don't. Well, my parents believe that God can come to your house, so you don't actually have to go to church.
Oh, that's nice.
But
I like that.
Yeah, but so it's kind of like when I saw my parents' commitment to each other, I saw them show a lot of imperfections along the way, a ton of imperfections, where it could have been easy to accuse each of them of being uncommitted.
Really, they were uncommitted.
At different times, yeah, because it's hard to really be on your A game for 48 straight years. Like you're gonna have times where you're not 100% perfect. You're gonna evolve. I've seen my parents change. I've seen them take different interests that the other person didn't like. Right. And what really worked for them,
how did you see them deal with that level of, okay, that person did something and the other person didn't like? How did you see them resolve that?
They would fight it out, but they never ever talked about getting a divorce. They just, at
What
least
do you
not,
mean
at least
fight
not
it out?
publicly.
What do you
They would
mean
just
fight it
argue
out?
about it. Like when my father wanted to move, and my mother didn't want to go. My father said, "Well, I'm taking me and my kids, and we're gonna move. You can come with us if you want to."
Oh wait, so he
And
didn't listen to what she said to say? It was
no,
like it's my way or the highway?
it would, yeah, in that particular case it was. But I remember another
Huh.
time where my mother, I made a bad grade on my report card, and my mother didn't want me to play basketball, and my father said, "No, let him go ahead and play," And my mother said, "I don't care. He's not playing." Right. And I remember that them going back and forth about that. And I don't remember if I got to play or not. That I can't remember.
Well,
But
that's important to know. I'm curious
yeah,
if you played.
I think Mama won that one. Right. And I think that what I saw
So
with,
it's about winning.
well, what I saw with them was, even in the midst of their power struggle, no matter how much things might have degraded for periods of time, and they had long periods of time where they didn't even like each other that much, where they were mad at each other. They just said, we're married.
I
Like that.
like that.
Like this is what we. It's like if we go into a room and we say we're gonna stay in this room and we're gonna lock the door and throw away the key. We could be really angry at each other and really get mad at each other, but if there's no key to get out of that room, then we're committed to being in that room, even if we don't act like we want to be in there.
Man, let me tell you, I have been listening to Michelle Obama. She's been all over the internet, and I really love what she's saying. First of all, I'm like a newly sprung fan of Michelle Obama. She's been going around doing a lot of talks about her marriage to Barack, and and it's so realistic. She talked about having children and having tough patches, kind of like what you were describing with your parents, having tough patches in their marriage and how they got through it. She was like, there were 10 years. There was one video. She's like, there were 10 years where I just couldn't stand him at all, especially when she was having children. When you're having small children and she needed help, and he was out doing, political stuff, I imagine, right? And so I don't know. She's just been very inspiring and very realistic in her discussion on marriage and family and raising children and the
Yeah.
complexities of that. She's very relatable recently. I kind of like her new look. She's got these braids in her hair. She's got these long fingernails. Like I just kind of I'm a fan. I'm a new fan of Michelle Obama.
Okay. Well, shout out to Barack and Michelle.
And I got to meet her.
Yeah, you
I
did.
was excited.
You said she was really tall.
She was really okay. So I saw the very first day of orientation at University of Chicago. There was one of my cohort members. She said, "I got to take you to meet Michelle Obama," and I said, "Why?" She's like, "Michelle and Barack, they're the up and coming couple." She was like all excited. So I went. We had to go and get our books. So I said, let's go get our books. And she said her office is right across the street from the University of Chicago bookstore. So I go and I grab my books, and she was just like, well, come on, her office is right. She had an office like in the basement of the little, the place where you pay the bursar, whatever it's called, where you pay your bills and get financial aid. And her office was right in the basement, and she did like community relations. I didn't even know that was a thing at a university. I was like, who would know to grow up and be a community relations? I think that's what she was doing. So anyway, I got to meet her and talk to her.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
She was really nice and very tall. I just remember she's like looking down at me, and I'm 5'8". I'm pretty tall myself.
That's hilarious.
Anyway.
Well, shout out to Michelle Obama.
I'm now a new fan.
Yeah, I agree. I admire. I like what you told me about what she said. I like that.
Yeah.
She mentions
realistic.
She said 10 years where I couldn't stand him. That's a long time, a decade of your life. How many people, give me a yes or no, how many of y'all believe that most couples today could go a decade where they can't stand each other?
I know people that
together.
I know people that went a decade.
And that's, and here's the thing, right? A lot of people would say, Michelle, that was stupid. Why would you be with a man who you couldn't stand? Who you didn't.
But she loved him though.
She loved, right.
The love was still there.
Right. And I get it. But yeah. When somebody says I couldn't stand you, that's like you come in the room, I get repulsed.
No, that's not what she was saying.
On my nerves. You said she couldn't stand him. Is that what she said?
She talked about raising kids and needed his help to raise children.
But that's different from saying I can't stand somebody.
No, I didn't interpret that she was repulsed by him. I got that she was always attracted to him. Let's not even talk about the conspiracy theories between this couple. Let's remove Michelle and Barack from this whole conversation. Okay.
Okay.
Let's just say relationships go through a rough patch, but it really is the love. I'm not saying love is um the only thing that keeps a couple together, right? But it's not enough to get married. Okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that love purely in and of itself is enough to get married to somebody, but it is definitely essential. And that's going to be what holds people together when you're in a rough patch. It's still being, there has to be something holding them together. Like, you're my person, boys. We have a rough patch. I'm still like, oh, but I still love him. He getting on
Okay.
my nerves. I can't stand him, but I love him.
Well, I love you too.
Like, that's
Well,
how I
well,
feel.
let me just go ahead and be honest and say that me loving you isn't what makes me stay with you. I
Of
do
course
love
not.
you. I do. It's convenient that I love you, but um, I learned. I decided this is my preference, and everybody ain't got to be the same on this. But I remember reading somewhere where they said that a lot of some families, like maybe from the South or Christian families, stay together not because they love a person or trust a person. They stay together because they have a higher power they're committed to. They have a higher set of principles and values they're committed to.
Okay,
Now,
that's
now,
true for
now,
some
now,
people.
yeah.
Hmm.
So let me just say that, and you're welcome to disagree. And that's totally fine. But I concluded a long time ago that human beings can let you down. Human beings are not perfect, and I knew I made a decision that in order for me to continue to tolerate the mistakes or the shortcomings of human beings, I had to be committed to something higher than just that person, because that person will disappoint you, right? And I had to do that with my love for the black community, because nobody's hurt me more in my life than black people. White people were mean to me, but I got away from them. I don't work with white
Well,
people
we
that much.
expected that. We
Right.
expected that from white people. Like, of course, it's like a snake biting you. It's like, duh, that's what snakes do. That's what white people do. But it's when your own people do it. For me, it just hurts more when it's my own people.
Right. So
Yeah.
so when I deal with black people who disappoint me, and you've seen it up close, where I trusted and threw everything into something and then, got hurt really badly. I got to hold on to something other than human beings to keep me going. I can't just say, well, I believe this. There's no way this person could let me down. It's my sort of consistent, unshakable commitment to the black community, to black love, to black progress, to these principles, these perfect principles that I'm committed to, that really keeps me focused. And that and
Hmm.
that and again, that was my personal preference, and I apply that probably to everything I do, marriage or whatever, because most things I've done that are really worth doing, like whether it's finishing a marathon or building a business or whatever, I've had times where it was just devastating. You could just take a body blow like nobody's business, and when you go through those dark periods, there's got to be something you hold on to, and it can't just be like, to me, it can't just be people.
Hmm. Yeah, it can't be people. It does have to be, and it's a commitment to those principles. I think that are so important, and those explicit conversations that you have with your partner about what those principles are, and making that well known. Yeah, you and your partner. I think all marriages should be. The individuals who are married to each other should be committed to a certain principle. Some of them are biblical, because you talked about your parents. It was biblical. Some of them are the principles that you talk about. Whatever it is, you do need to have kind of a higher level principled thing that you're willing to strive for and to work on, and to let that lead your decision making. I think that's important.
Hmm.
I like that.
Okay.
And I think that sometimes, if those, can you imagine if those principles clash between people who are married? That would be very difficult. So I think couples should be on the same page in terms of their principles, those their values and what they hold as important.
Hmm. All
I
right,
think that's
everybody.
important.
You listen to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and this is Dr. Alicia Watkins. And I'm 20 minutes late for a
Oh,
phone meeting that I
are
was
we
supposed to have.
late? I'm
Well,
sorry.
Quincy calls me at 10, so I gotta,
Oh
I gotta,
Lord.
I gotta go. But if everybody could take 1 second, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe if you haven't done it yet. Dr. Alicia's website is coachingwithdralicia.com. If you'd like to learn more about what she does as a therapist, feel free to visit coachingwithdralicia.com, or you can just follow her at Coaching with Dr. Alicia on Instagram. My website is boycewatkins.com, and I do have a new book out called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. So this is built on culture. It's built on economic strength amongst families. It's built on 10 principles that you can apply in your family that will position you for generational wealth. This is based on 30 years of financial research and also specifically studying Black families. I specifically wrote it for Black people because the racial wealth gap can be easily closed. We just have to get on code. So feel free to take a look at the book. You can go to boycewatkins.com if you'd like to learn more. So God bless you, everybody. Thank you all for listening. Have a good day.
Bye,
And we will see you
everybody.
soon. All right. Bye-bye.